Welcome to EtherLink AI Insights. I'm Alex, and joining me today is Sam. We're diving into a topic that's becoming absolutely critical for European enterprises right now: fractional AI leadership and getting ready for the EU AI Act. Sam, this is hitting a real pain point, isn't it?
Absolutely. What we're seeing is this massive disconnect. 67% of European enterprises don't have a clear AI strategy, yet they're running up against an August 2026 deadline where EU AI Act compliance becomes mandatory. The stakes are genuinely high. We're talking fines up to $30 million or 6% of global turnover for non-compliance.
That's a hard deadline, and I'm guessing most organizations aren't prepared for it. What's the typical response we're seeing from enterprises? Are they trying to hire a full-time AI executive, or are they looking at other models?
That's where fractional AI architecture comes in. Historically, companies would hire a chief technology officer to handle everything from infrastructure to AI governance. But that's outdated. A CTO can't give you the specialized focus that AI governance actually requires, especially when you're trying to map agentic AI systems, assess risk stratification, and build compliance frameworks all at once.
So the fractional model is basically bringing in a specialized AI architect on a part-time or project basis instead of a full-time C-suite hire. What does that actually cost compared to a full-time appointment?
We're talking $8,000 to $18,000 per month for 15 to 20 hours a week, versus $200,000 plus in salary and benefits for a permanent hire. For a mid-market European firm, say $50 to $500 million in revenue, that's a 40 to 60% cost reduction. And here's the kicker: you're getting the same level of expertise, just without the permanent overhead.
That makes mathematical sense, but I imagine some executives are nervous about part-time leadership on something this strategic. What does the market data actually show about the effectiveness of this fractional approach?
The numbers are compelling. Gartner's 2024 CIO survey found that 73% of European CIOs plan to increase fractional and managed AI consulting spend in 2025 to 2026. We're looking at a $2.1 billion-plus market in Europe alone, growing at 28% annually. But the real proof is in governance outcomes.
Governance outcomes. Walk me through that. What's the actual difference between organizations with dedicated AI architecture leadership and those without?
Forrester's 2024 AI governance study is stark. Only 12% of enterprises without dedicated AI governance achieved regulatory compliance, versus 84% of those with formal AI architecture leadership. That's a 7x difference. And McKinsey data shows that enterprises with documented AI maturity frameworks hit their value targets 3.2 times faster and have 68% fewer project failures.
So it's not just compliance, it's actually accelerating ROI and reducing risk. That's a much stronger business case than just checking a regulatory box.
Exactly. And that's why the AI lead architect role is distinct from a traditional CTO. This person is focused on AI-specific governance frameworks aligned with EU requirements, building maturity roadmaps for your specific industry, and designing architecture for emerging agentic AI systems.
Agentic AI is interesting. That's autonomous systems making decisions without human intervention, right? That must complicate governance.
Enormously. Agentic systems are explicitly high risk under the EU AI Act. So is credit scoring, healthcare diagnostics, recruitment systems, and any kind of biometric identification. By August 2026, all high-risk systems need continuous compliance monitoring, documented risk assessments, and human oversight protocols. That's not something you can bolt on at the last minute.
So the fractional architect comes in and does what? A readiness scan? How does this actually work in practice?
It typically starts with an AI readiness scan. We're looking at your current AI systems, mapping which ones are high risk under EU definitions, assessing your governance maturity, and identifying gaps. That baseline usually takes 4 to 6 weeks, depending on organizational complexity. From there, we build a compliance roadmap with specific timelines and resource requirements.
And that happens without disrupting the organization's existing operations?
Right. A fractional engagement is typically 15 to 20 hours weekly, so you're not reorganizing your whole team. The architect integrates with your existing leadership, documents requirements, builds frameworks, and often handles change management to get your organization aligned. It's surgical, not disruptive.
Let me ask the practical question that people are probably thinking. If I'm an enterprise that hasn't done any of this yet, am I too late to prepare for August 2026?
No, but you need to start immediately. The readiness scan itself takes 4 to 6 weeks. Then you have implementation, which could be 3 to 6 months depending on your complexity. If you're starting in Q1 2025, you have realistic time to get compliant. If you're starting in Q3 2025, you're cutting it very close.
So the clock is ticking. Beyond just compliance, though, what are the strategic benefits of having this AI governance in place? Is it just defensive, or does it create actual competitive advantage?
Absolutely competitive advantage. Organizations with mature AI governance frameworks are faster to deploy new AI initiatives, more trusted by customers and regulators, and less exposed to project failure. They're also better positioned for agentic AI systems, which are becoming a major frontier. If you've built governance for autonomous systems now, you're ahead of 90% of competitors.
That's a compelling vision. What's the starting point for someone listening who thinks, okay, we need to do this?
First, assess what high-risk AI systems you're actually running. Second, understand your current governance maturity. Do you have documented AI policies, risk assessment processes, human oversight mechanisms? Third, find a fractional AI architect or consultancy that specializes in EU compliance, preferably with European market experience. And fourth, commit to a readiness scan. That gives you a clear roadmap.
And that readiness scan, is that something an organization can do internally, or do you really need external expertise?
External expertise is critical. Internal teams are often too close to existing systems to spot blind spots. And frankly, EU AI Act interpretation is evolving. Having someone who's worked through multiple compliance exercises brings pattern recognition that's invaluable. Plus, external validation carries weight with regulators.
Final question. You mentioned 40-plus organizations have gone through this transformation with EtherMind. What's the most common surprise people encounter when they start this process?
That it's less about technology and more about governance and documentation. Most enterprises assume the challenge is implementing fancy AI systems. Actually, it's proving to regulators that your existing systems are documented, monitored, and controlled. That's a governance and process problem, not an engineering problem. Once teams understand that, the path forward becomes much clearer.
That's a crucial reframe. Sam, thanks for walking us through this. For listeners wanting to dive deeper, the full article on fractional AI architecture, readiness assessment, and EU AI Act strategy is available on etherlink.ai. Definitely check it out if your organization is navigating this 2026 deadline. Thanks for joining us on EtherLink AI Insights.
Thanks, Alex. And to anyone in European enterprises, don't wait on this. The regulatory clock is ticking, and getting ahead now is both a risk mitigation and a competitive opportunity.